What's up guys, Buadev is here. One of you asked me to make tutorial about 2D endless runner game in Unity, so here it is. We will talk about player jumping, obstacles, scoring system and a lot more, and as usual I will make everything as easy as possible, so even if you are a beginner you can still follow along. Before we begin, if you like my content and want to see more videos like this, please like this one and subscribe to my channel. Now let's get started, and as you see I have empty 2D scene and we will work here today. And obviously let's start by creating for us player, and I'm gonna use just Unity's default 2D objects, but if you have some other assets in mind you can use it, feel free to do it. But for us, let's go in the hierarchies empty space, click with the right mouse button where we will see 2D objects, sprites, and we will use square for our player, I think. Yes. And as you see, we have square created. We can change name to be player. By the way, you can also change name by selecting your game object, going in the inspector window, and here you can change name of your game object. Also, our game object of player has different elements, as you see in the inspector on the right side, and we can change color from it. You will see when we click here, we can select any color we want. Let's make it red, I think. Let's position it around here, I think. By the way, before we begin, let's go in the game view, and I'm gonna change my resolution from the free aspect to be full HD 1920 by 1080, just the standard resolution for those types of games. You can leave it as a free aspect if you want. I just like full HD better. All right, we have our player, and let's create ground for our player to land. So again, to the object, sprite, square, and this time it will be ground. So let's change name of ground. And if we see in the inspector, we see this transform element, which has position, rotation, and scaling. And if we change scaling, you see that our size of our game object changes too. So let's make it 1 on the Y and Z, and let's change X to be, I think 20 will be enough. Let's position it around here, and I will change color to be some darker green. Yeah, indeed it looks fine. And in order everything to work, we need to add few components into our ground and into our player. So let's select our ground first of all, and here you will see this add component button. If we click on this add component, we will see that it has a lot of things to choose from, but this time we need physics 2D, and it has these colliders, and we should find here box collider 2D. Where is box collider 2D? Here it is, box collider 2D. Let's select it, and it will add our collider. By the way, if you don't know what are the colliders in Unity, they are just the way how different game objects will interact with each other. For example, this time, as you see, well, I will show you very soon, but first let's go into player and click on this add component. And this player will need some gravity and physical elements, so we can go in the physics 2D and find here rigid body. It's the main physics component, rigid body 2D. And as you see, it adds this thing which has the mass, gravity, and a lot of things. If we, for example, start playing right now, you will see that our player will fall down, but right now it can't land on our ground because our player doesn't have collider. Only our ground has collider. That's exactly why colliders are used. But if we add collider to our player as well, our player will successfully land into our ground. So let's select our player. Let's scroll down, add component. And by the way, you can type here in the search box name of your component. For example, let's type box, and you see here it is box collider 2D. Let's add it. And now if we press play, you will see that our player will land into our ground because colliders will interact with each other. Amazing. That's exactly what we want. And now let's make our player to jump. But first, let's talk about how we are gonna do it. If we select our player, and if I move this up and down, that's exactly what will be needed for jumping, this kind of movement when we press some key. And when I'm doing it, the y-axis changes in the position, as you see. So it means that we should write code which will change this y-axis when we click specific key. That's the one point. Second point, if we go in the edit panel, edit and project settings, we will see here this input manager field. And if we scroll down this axis, you see that Unity already has prepared some buttons, some inputs for us to use. And it also has this jump button, which is on the space key by default. We can obviously change the space key to any key we want, but I will leave for this project as a space because I'm used to space. But the point is that we can get information about those inputs and use this jump button into our script. That's the 2 points that I wanted to talk about before we get to the coding part. And we are now ready to go and create C# script for us and work on it. To create C# script in Unity, you just need to go in the Assets panel here, and in the empty space, right click with the right mouse button, create, and here you will see C# script. Just click on it, and I already prepared some scripts for us. I called it player. You can call it anything you want, or you just can call it player as well. Just make sure to drag your script into your player game object. Drop it here. Let's save our scene. And when I select my player, as you see, the player script now is attached to my player game object. Other way would be that selecting your game object, clicking add component, and in the search box you can type name of your script. In our case, it's player, and you can click on here and script will be added. But anyway, let's double click to our player game object and player script, and let's start working on it. First of all, we need to create few variables, and we need variable for assigning our rigid body in order to use it. So we can say private rigid body 2D, and let's call it RB for simplicity. And also we need a variable for some kind of jump force or jump speed, call it what you want. So let's create it, public float, let's call it jump force, and I will make it 7 by default. We can always change it from the inspector later. And now we should assign our rigid body to this RB in order to use it. And we can say here in the start, void start, we can say RB equals get component, and component name is rigid body 2D. Don't forget parentheses and semicolon. That's it. Now we are able to use RB, and Unity will know that we are referring to our rigid body. Now in the update, here we will say our whole logic. First of all, we should say that if we are touching some specific key, we want to jump, right? So we can say if input, we should get information about input and buttons that I showed you before. So we can say input dot get button down. It means that we are pressing some button, and the button name was jump, as if you remember, and we should say jump in the quotation marks. Let's open and close curly brackets, and here we can say what we want to do when we are pressing our jump button, which is our space key on the keyboard. We can take our rigid body, which is RB, and we should make its velocity, so its speed, to be new vector 2. So basically we are creating new direction when we are pressing some space key, and we should leave X value unchanged. If you remember, when we are doing this movement, X axis is not changing. We should only change this Y y-axis. So to keep it x how it is right now, we can say rb.velocity.x, which will leave x how it is to the original point. And for the y, we can say jump force very simply, and we can save the script. Don't forget semicolon at the end. To save your script, you can click on the Control S or Command S if you are on Mac, and let our script compile for a few moments, and then we can go back in Unity. And as you see now, our player script has this jump force element, which is set to 7 right now. But just let's start playing and see what we have just done. Alright, when I'm pressing the space key, as you see, my player is jumping. Only problem that we have is that I can spam my jump key, my space, and my player will continue jumping and jumping, which is not great. I only want one jump, one snappy jump for my game. And we should fix it. We should work on it, and let's think about how we can do it. Very simple way. Right now, as you see, my player can even jump when it's in the air. So it means that if we make some kind of indicator, just like some kind of sensor, which will help us to identify wherever we are on the ground here or when we are on the air, then we can make our logic that we can only jump when we are in the ground, and when we are in the air we can no longer jump, basically. So it means that only thing that we need is to create some kind of indicator which will help us to identify our where is our player right now. It's very simple. We just need to select our player, right click on our player, and create empty game object, and let's call it ground check. This will be our indicator, our sensor. So let's place it below our player, around here, I think. Well, at the feet of our player, but since our player doesn't have any feet, let's place it around here. And this point, this ground check empty game object, will be our sensor, and it will check if we are on the ground or if we are in the air. But in order everything to work, we should also use one more thing. If we select our ground and go in the inspector, you see this tag and layer. Those ones just are like categories which can be assigned to different game objects. For example, if we scroll down layers, Unity already has some default layers, but we don't need any of them. Instead, we can add our custom layer. So let's click on the add layer, and here on the empty slot we can say ground with a capital first letter. And then if we select ground one more time, we can assign this ground layer to our ground game object. It's very important, so listen carefully and do as I'm doing right now, otherwise you will have some problems. And now we have this category of ground assigned to this game object, and this ground layer will help our sensor, which is ground check, to identify if we are on the ground and to check it. I hope it makes sense so far. And now we can go back into our script, into our player script, and work on it a little bit more. First of all, we need few components, few variables in order everything to work. So let's create few variables. First variable that we need is to create variable for our ground check. So I will use transform type because I want to check my ground check's position. And let's just call it ground check. Ground check. Also, we need variable for some kind of radius. Public float. Let's call it ground check radius. Also, what we need is to refer our layer, our ground layer. So we can say public layer mask, and let's call it ground layer. And also we need one boolean. Boolean just returns true or false, and we need it to check if we are on the ground or not. So let's make it private bool, and let's call it is touching ground, and that's it. Now we go in the update, and we should tell Unity what is touching ground. So we can say is touching ground equals, and now here we can use special method, which is physics2d dot overlap circle, which is great method to check those kind of to use those in those kind of situations, and it basically checks if we are on the ground or not. But in order it to work, it needs few components. First of all, it needs a component. First component, it needs ground checks position. So we can use this ground check and say here ground check dot position. After it needs to have some kind of radius. So we can say ground check radius. And after it, we need to refer what layer we are using. We are using ground layer. So we can say ground layer. That's it. We can put semicolon here. And the only thing that is left, here we say our logic that what is touching ground, and our checking option. This is our checking option, is touching ground. But in script, this method won't work because we are not calling this logic anywhere. So after our jump, right here, let's have some space, and we can say here end. By the way, if you don't know, this is end sign. End is touching ground. Now, what we have just done, it might confuse you at the first place, but I will explain you very simple way right now. Here we have our logic, our main logic. So when we are pressing our jump key and when we are touching ground, only then we are able to jump. So we have two conditions here. First one, we should click on the space key, and the second one, we should be grounded. Basically, we should touch the ground. Only then we can jump. So these two conditions will come true only when our player will be in the ground. But when we are in the air, only first condition will be true. So because we can always click on the jump, but the second condition won't be true. It will be false because we are not touching ground when we are in the air. So this code won't be called. It means that we won't be able to jump when we are in the air. I hope it makes sense. Basically, we are just creating two conditions, and when both of them are true, only then we can jump. If one of them is false, then we are no longer to jump. So let's save the script and let's see if everything is working. Let our script compile. It might take few seconds. And let's go back in Unity. But first of all, we should click on the player, scroll down, and we should fill missing information into our script right here. We have this ground check, so let's drag our ground check here. Also, we need to have some kind of radius. It just needs to be a small number like 0.7. And ground layer, let's select ground from nothing to ground. And let's start playing and see. When I'm touching the space key in the air, doesn't matter, we are no longer jumping when we are in the air. Amazing. By the way, if we want more snappier movement, we can select our player and go in the rigid body and change this gravity scale to be 3 and also jump force to be 12, I think. Well, you can just play around with those numbers with gravity scale and your jump force, and you will get to desired point. This way we are falling much faster, as you see, and I think I like this way better. But you can obviously change your numbers however you like. I think my player needs to be positioned around here. it will be better. Anyway, let's continue. Let's save our script and let's continue. Now, obviously, we need some kind of obstacle in order to our game to be more fun, because right now nothing is really happening. So we can use 2D game objects one more time. Let's go in the empty space of the hierarchy panel, right click to the object. Let's use sprites and square one more time, but this way I will make my square a bit larger, like this, bit taller, I think. Yeah, I think it will be fine. We can always change it if we don't like. Let's change color to be some, I don't know, maybe purple. Anyway, just change color however you like. This is my obstacle, and now I want my obstacle to move towards my player with the script, of course. So let's create new C# script for our obstacles. Let's click on the create in the assets folder, C# script. I already have an empty script for my obstacles. I called it move left. By the way, if you are doing 2 words in your script, in your name of your script, just make sure not to have any spaces there. You should always write name of your script without spaces. Otherwise, your script won't work, basically. So let's drag our script into our obstacle. By the way, let's change name to be obstacle. And we can now start working on our obstacle. So let's double click to our move left script and let's see what we want to do. It will be very simple. Only thing that we need to create one variable, which will be our some kind of move speed to control our speed. So public float, let's call it move speed for simplicity. And here in the update, we can say that we are referring to this transform element. So we can say transform.translate, which means our position. And we can say here vector3.left, which is direction, and this will make sure to our obstacle to make movement on the left side. Also, we will multiply it to time.delta time to make everything smooth, and to have some speed control, we can say it multiplied by move speed, and after it we will make everything relative to our word. And we can do it by saying space dot word. And that's it. Very simple line of code. We just give it direction. We make everything smooth, and we are adding our move speed. So let's save this script. Let's go back in Unity and let's make our move speed to be 5, I think. And let's press play and see if our obstacle is moving towards our player. And indeed it does. Amazing. The next step will be to create lots of obstacles into Unity, because right now, as you see, we only have one obstacle, which is quite boring. So let's create a lot of obstacles for us. Before we begin going into the scripting part, let's talk about how we are able to make our obstacles in the best way, I guess we can say, like this. Well, you might think that we can obviously duplicate these obstacles and place them, thousands of them or hundreds of them, into our scene, and they will slowly come towards our player, which is right, completely right, but it will be completely wrong. It will be bad for our performance, and we can do much better ways. And let's think about it. Instead, we can have some kind of point, which will be our spawn point. And from this point, our obstacles will be created and will automatically come towards our player with our script, which will be much better way. But this way will also have some problem. Well, it's not a problem, but it will be just boring, because all of these obstacles will be completely same and there won't be any challenge. Instead, we want some way to differentiate these obstacles. For example, we can have different heights of obstacles, or what I'm thinking to have uh, difference in distance between these obstacles. This will add more challenge. And how to do it? We can create some random range of numbers between, for example, we can say that we want some range between 1 second and 3 seconds. It means that one of our obstacle might create and come into towards our player after 1 second. Second one might come after 1.3 or 1.8, and so on, in the range of wherever numbers we want, wherever range we want. And as a result, those obstacles will have different distance between them, and it will add some challenge into our game. And to do it, first thing that we need is to create prefab from our obstacle. And if you don't know what is prefab, it's just game object which can be used a lot of times, good for scripting. And to create a prefab for us, we just need to drag our game object into the assets folder. So let's drag our obstacle into our assets folder. And as you see, our obstacle icon changed, and also it changed color, which means that now we have obstacles, and now we don't need this obstacle in this scene anymore. So let's select our obstacles and let's delete from the scene. Only thing that we need is this prefab of our obstacle. And let's go now and create C# script now that we know how we are doing it. By the way, I will remind you, you just need to go in the assets Windows empty space, right click, create C# script, and I called it respawn. You can call it same as me, and we need some kind of game object to attach this respawn script. So let's go in the hierarchies empty space, create empty. Let's call it game manager, and let's attach our respawn script there. Let's drag and drop, and indeed it's here. Let's double click to open in Visual Studio, and as usual we need few variables in order everything to work. So we can say public transform. First variable will be for our obstacle prefab, so let's call it obstacle. And the second one, as I mentioned, we need to have some kind of spawn point from where our obstacles will be automatically spawned. So we can say public transform, and let's call it spawn point. Oh, by the way, for our obstacles, we should use game object instead of transform, because this is prefab and it should be game object. But from our spawn point, we only need position, so we can use this transform. All right, we don't need this update, so we can delete it. Instead, we are going to use coroutines, which are special methods. And they are very good when you want to have some delay time or wait time and so on. And to create coroutines and use it, you should first create enumerator. So let's say enumerator, and let's call it respawn obstacle. Open and close curly brackets. Don't forget parentheses. Here we can say that first of all, as I said, we need to have some kind of range of numbers which will be randomized. And to create them, it's very simple. Basically, you can say random.range, and in parentheses you can type, for example, 1f and 3f, 3f. It means that we have some range of numbers, random range of numbers between 1 second and 3 seconds. In order to use this effectively, we just need to create some float and save information about this range there. So in front of this random.range, we can say float, and let's call it spawn time, and it will be equal to this random.range. It means that now we are storing information about this range into this spawn time. After it, we can say yield return new wait 4 seconds. And here in parentheses, we can pass, for example, 2 seconds. And it means that the code which will come after this yield return new will have some delay time of 2 seconds, will be executed after 2 seconds, but we don't need to manually type anything. That's exactly why we created this range to use it. And that's exactly why we are storing information about it in this float of spawn time. We can basically pass spawn time here, and that's it. After it, we can say what we are going to do after this random date range. We want to create our obstacles into our scene. So we can say we can use instantiate method, and this instantiate will take few parameters. First of all, we should say what we are going to create. We want to create our obstacles. Then we can say where we're gonna do it. We want to instantiate in the spawn point. So spawn point dot position. And lastly, we should say what rotation they should have. I don't want them to have any kind of rotation, the obstacles. So I can say quaternion dot identity, which means that they won't have any kind of rotation. And in order this everything to run forever or until we die, we can use loop, while loop. So we can say here while true, open and close curly brackets, and we can wrap up all of these 3 lines of code there. So let's select them. Let's cut them and place them here in these open and close curly brackets. And that's it. Only thing that is left is to go in the start and call this coroutine some here. And to do it, we can say start coroutine, and in parentheses we can say name of our enumerator, which is respawn obstacle. Don't forget one more parenthesis, semicolon, and that's it. Now, there is nothing complicated really here, but if you are still confused a bit, you can watch one more time this part, or you can always ask me any questions in the comments down below, and I will gladly answer them. But anyway, let's save the script, Control S or Command S. If you are on Mac, let's go back in Unity, let our script compile, and see if everything is fine. First of all, let's select our game manager, and it needs a few components. First thing, obstacle. We have this obstacle prefab, so let's drag it there. But for our spawn point, we don't have any spawn point just yet, so we just need to create it. We go in the hierarchy panel, empty space, right click, create empty, and let's call it spawn point. And we should place the spawn point outside of our camera, as I said. For example, right here, I think it will be fine. Yes, just make sure to have this Z on the 0. Otherwise, you won't be able to see your obstacles because they will be rendered behind our camera. Well, I will show you in order you to understand it better way. So let's select our game manager and drag our spawn point there. And if we start playing right now, let's see. As you see, nothing really happening. Well, at least we are not able to see it. But if we go in the scene view, you see that our obstacles are spawning. They have different distance, so it means that it's working, our script. But the problem is that we can't see. That is happening because our spawn point is rendered behind our camera, because this is on the Z is on the -10, and we should make our Z to be 0 for our spawn point. And now if we press play, you will see our obstacles coming towards our player. Let's see. And indeed, they are coming. And we can basically jump. Next problem that we have is if you see my hierarchy panel, our obstacles are created, and they are staying into my game, and all of these clones, which will be bad for our performance eventually. So we should delete them when they leave our scene, basically. And it's very simple. Let's stop playing and let's drag our prefab into our game. Uh, and outside of our camera right here, when they leave our camera, let's see X position, because that's all we need. For example, in my case, it's minus 9.5. In your case, this number might be a little bit different. Just check what is your number on the X. So I will delete basically this obstacle when it reaches this point of minus 9.5 into X. And let's just, well, I don't need these obstacles. It's minus 9.5 in my case. So let's open our MoveLab script, which is attached to our obstacles. And in the update, only thing that we need to say that if our position, which is our transform.position.x, we only need x-axis, is less than minus 9.5 in my case, I want to destroy, and in parentheses I will say game object. Well, it means that when they reach this point of minus 9.5 on X, they will be deleted from my game, which is very handy method. So let's save our script and let's go back in Unity and see if everything is fine. All right, let's press play. Let our script, okay, our game has started. Okay, they are created, and as you see, they are also deleted after some time. 2 or 3 is not a problem. Unity will easily handle this, and this is just better way how you can handle spawning and deleting them. And the next thing is to have some kind of mechanics in order our player to die, because right now nothing really happening, and I want my level to be restarted when I touch these obstacles. And that's why if we select our obstacles, well, first of all, we need to have some kind of collider. So let's select our obstacle prefab, add component, and here let's type box collider in the search box. Now we have collider, and now we are able to collide with our player. And also, if we scroll up, you see this tag system. We already have mentioned layer system for our ground, and tag is almost same. It's just category as well. We can assign some kind of category to our obstacle and then use the tag into our script. So let's scroll this tag and add our custom tag, add tag. We can click on the plus sign and let's call our tag obstacle with a capital O, and just make sure to copy this. Let's save and let's select our obstacle and assign this tag into our obstacle game object. Now, after it, we can open our player script this time. And after our outside of update, we can use special methods, which is on collision enter. So let's type here on collision enter 2D. Let's click enter, and Visual Studio will auto compile. And here we can say that if collision dot game object dot tag double equals, and in quotation mark we should type name of our tag correctly. Just make sure to type this tag correctly right here. And it means that basically when something with the tag of obstacle touches our player, collides with our player, we should do something. Well, as I mentioned, I want to restart my level. And to restart my level, first thing we should add here on the upside this line using Unity Engine .scene management, and I will explain what it does very shortly. Let's just finish our code first. And here we can say that when obstacle touches our player, we need to go in the scene manager and load scene, and in parentheses we can type 0. Now, why 0 and what is this scene manager load scene at all? Well, let's save the script. Let's go back in Unity editor and I will explain very easily. Let our script compile. Let's go back. Well, if we open this file, you see these build settings, and here we should have every scene that we want to include into our game. And as you see, right now we only have this current scene, which is name is sample scene basically, and it has this index of 0, which we used here. So it means that when obstacle touches our player, this scene will be reloaded. So game will be restarted basically. And that's exactly what is 0 means. By the way, if you don't see any scene into this window, you just need to click on this add open scene, and it will add your current scene into your game. So let's save our scene, and well, let's test if everything is working and if our level restarts and we are able to basically die. All right, let's jump on this and let's touch this. And indeed, our level restarts. This is very handy and easy method to restart your level. And the next thing is to create some scoring system for your game. And I already have a video about scoring system, so I will just go briefly into there for today's. All right, first thing, obviously, we need to create some kind of UI elements for our scoring system. So we go in the hierarchy panel, empty space, UI, and we can use this legacy old text, but it's just old. So let's use TextMesh Pro. It's a newer version of Unity's UI texts. Let's click on the TextMesh Pro, and if you are opening this TextMesh Pro first time into your project, some window will pop up and you just need to click import. It will import some TMP essentials, and don't worry, it only takes few seconds usually, and then you are good to go. But anyway, let's zoom out and see where is our text. Well, as you see, this is our text and this is our canvas panel. We can basically drag our text where we want and position it where we want. We can also select this rect tool and make our text larger or bigger in size. We can also go here in the inspector and change alignments to be, for example, center by center. We can also go in the game view and see how it looks like. Well, position it where you want. I personally will position my scoring here, and I will change in text to be 0 because we will start from 0 point. Well, as you see, our font size is small, so let's make it, well, I will make it 80. Obviously, you also have, if you have any kind of font which you want to use, you can drag it here into this window. I don't have any kind of fonts currently in my project. You can also change some font style. You can change color, but I think I will leave it as a white. And yeah, we are ready to go. Well, in order everything to work, we obviously need to have some kind of script. So let's create new C# script. Create C# script. I called it Game Manager. You can call it same if you like. And I will assign my Game Manager script into my Game Manager game object as well. And indeed it's here. So let's double click into open in Visual Studio and let's start working. Well, first of all, in order everything to work, we should add this line using TM Pro here. And after it, we can say int private int. This will be our for score, and it will be 0. Int is integer, basically, if you don't know. And also what we want is to have some kind of public text. Well, not text, TM Pro. Not TM. TM text. Where is our text? I forgot how they write in TM Pro, TextMesh Pro. Okay, TMP text, it's TMP text basically. as I see. Well, we forgot to add a name for our integer. Let's call it score. Int score will be 0 and public tmp text, and let's call it score text. And we go in the after update. Well, basically we don't need this update, so we can delete it. Instead, we are going to create our custom function, void. Let's call it score up. Open and close curly brackets, and here we should increment our score by 1, and we can say we can do it by saying score plus plus. It means that our score will be increased, and we should assign our score into our text in order to see in our actual game. So we can say our score text dot text, so we are referring to text element, will be equal to score. Problem with this is that our score is int and our text is string, so we should convert this score into string basically, and it's very simple. We just need to type score dot to string parentheses and semicolon, and that's it. Now in the void start we can call this score up, but I want to have some kind of time control, so I will use invoke repeating, which allows us to use function with some time control. In the quotation marks here, you should type name of your function, which is in our case score up, and after it we can type comma. And for example, if I type here 2f and 1f, it means that our scoring will start after 2 seconds after we start our game, and our score will be incremented by 1 every second. We can also type here 1f and 1f, and our scoring will start after count will start after 1 second, but I want to have some kind of delay time when I first start our level, because our obstacles will take 1 or 2 seconds to come and show in our scene when we first start our level, our game. So anyway, we can save this script. I hope you understand. It's very simple and basic scoring system, and this is how you can easily create them. So let's save this script. Let's go back in Unity and let our script compile. We should assign a few things, I think. Yeah, we should assign text. So let's select our game manager, and you see this empty slot of score text. So let's drag this text there, drag and drop. And if we press play right now, you will see that we now have scoring system as well. And well, we don't have scoring system because something is wrong, I think, into our script. So let's go in the console and see. Trying to invoke method. All right. Let's open our script one more time. And let's see what is wrong, what is up. Well, we typed our score up wrong way. That's why this was happening. So let's save the script. Up needed uppercase. Those things happen and they are frustrating, but well, what to do? Let's go back and start playing, and now everything will work. All right. This is our game, and our scoring has started. And when we die and our level restarts, our scoring will restart as well. That's how you can simply create 2D endless runner game in Unity. Very basic one, but very fast and good. And if you like my content and want to see more videos like this, please like this one, subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to ring the notification bell not to miss any new upcoming videos. See you soon. Thanks for watching, and bye bye.